I never thought I'd be living under the same roof as Mr. Dalton, my best friend's dad. I mean, what guy in their 20s randomly ends up crashing at his childhood best friend's place just because he's in between apartments? I kept telling myself it was temporary. A couple of weeks, maybe a month. But nothing about this stay felt temporary. Not after the first night. I'd just broken up with my boyfriend. 3 years. Down the drain. It wasn't dramatic, just empty, like we'd both stopped trying. He said I wasn't the same anymore, too quiet, too distant. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd been holding something back for years, even from myself. So when Ethan, my best friend in high school, offered me the guest room at his dad's house in the suburbs, I didn't think twice. Come on, Ethan had said. Dad's chill. You remember him. I did remember him. Too well. Mr. Dalton had always been that cool dad. Confident. Deep voice, always in control, but never overbearing. He wasn't just physically fit for a man in his late 40s. He had that calm, composed masculinity that made everyone shut up when he entered a room. Even back in high school, I'd noticed him in ways I never admitted. But now here I was, 26 years old, dragging my overstuffed duffel bag up the polished wooden stairs of the Dalton house. Try to act like I wasn't nervous. Trying to act like I hadn't rehearsed this moment in my head more than once. Tyler, he said as he opened the door that evening. His voice hadn't changed at all. Long time. I smiled awkwardly. Yeah, thanks for letting me stay. He took my bag like it weighed nothing and motioned me inside. You're not just a guest here. You're family. That line, I don't know why it stuck with me. Maybe because I didn't want to be seen as family. Not in the way he meant. The house smelled like cedar and fresh linen. Clean. Minimalist. Every room had a touch of something personal. A leather-bound book, a painting, a whiskey decanter that looked untouched. Ethan wasn't home that weekend. Out of town with his girlfriend. So it was just me and Mr. Dalton. Alone. That night, after dinner, he poured himself a glass of wine. Not the cheap kind either. I sat across from him in the living room, nursing a beer, trying not to stare. So, he said, resting back on the couch, one arm slung casually along the backrest. You and Matt, it's really over? I blinked. Yeah, just couldn't make it work. He nodded slowly, then looked at me, not with pity, but something else. Something harder to read. You'll land on your feet. Always did. There was a silence. Heavy but not awkward. Then he asked, You ever wonder if we lie to ourselves just to make others comfortable? I wasn't sure if he meant relationships or something else entirely. The next morning, I woke up later than I meant to. Showered. Walked downstairs in a towel, because I thought he was out for a run. He wasn't. He was standing in the kitchen, shirtless, coffee in hand. I stopped in my tracks. He didn't move. Just looked at me, eyes calm. Steady? You grown up? He said, a half smile playing on his lips. Didn't used to be so comfortable walking around like that. I laughed awkwardly. Didn't used to be as confident. He nodded. Confidence suits you. Then he turned and poured me a cup of coffee, like we hadn't just crossed some invisible line. The days passed slowly. Every moment felt normal on the surface, but charged underneath, like I was constantly waiting for something to be said, something to shift. He'd offer small compliments. Your voice has a calmness to it now. You carry yourself differently. You seem like someone who knows what he wants. But what did I want? I couldn't tell if he was just being kind, or if he was seeing something in me that I hadn't let anyone see. One night, around midnight, I came downstairs for water. The lights were dim, the air still. I found him in the living room again, sitting with a drink in his hand, staring at the fireplace even though it wasn't lit. He glanced up. Couldn't sleep either? I shook my head. Too quiet. He motioned to the couch. Sit. I sat. We didn't speak for almost 2 full minutes. Then he said, Sometimes I think people only know one version of me. The dad. The boss. The safe one. I looked at him. What other version is there? He turned toward me, eyes deeper now. The one no one really asks about. Something shifted then, and I knew That was the moment I stopped seeing him as just Ethan's dad. That was the moment I realized he saw me, not as a guest or a kid, but as a man. What I didn't know was how much danger that realization would bring. Because once a line is crossed, even just in the mind, nothing stays the same. If you've ever found yourself catching feelings in the most unexpected place, hit that like button. Part 2 takes this emotional tension even deeper. And trust me, you won't see what's coming next. The next morning, I couldn't stop replaying our midnight conversation in my head. The one no one really asked about. What did he mean? Was he talking about his identity? Regrets? Desires he never voiced out loud? Or was I just projecting, seeing what I wanted to see? When I came downstairs, Mr. Dalton was already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, cooking scrambled eggs like it was just another Saturday. But I noticed something. He was humming, softly, a tune I didn't recognize. He seemed lighter, like something had lifted off him. "Morning," he said, without turning around. "Morning." I replied, trying to sound normal, whatever that meant. "You sleep okay?" he asked. I nodded, lied. "Yeah." He turned, placed a plate in front of me, and for the first time in years, our hands brushed just for a second. That touch sent a jolt through me, not because it was electric or romantic or anything over the top, but because he didn't pull away. The rest of that day was filled with small moments like that. He'd ask how long I planned to stay, not because he wanted me gone, but like he wanted to prepare for something. He'd pause when I spoke, as if memorizing my words. And when I offered to help mow the lawn, he stood behind me for a moment too long, guiding my hand with his. Just once. Just enough to confuse me. Was I imagining it? Was he? That night, I went to bed early. Or, at least, I tried to, but my head was spinning. Who was Mr. Dalton, really? And why was I feeling so drawn to someone I knew I shouldn't be? I stared at the ceiling, hoping sleep would drown out the confusion. It didn't. So I went downstairs again, just like the night before. And once again, he was there. He was sitting on the porch this time, barefoot, sipping from the same glass of whiskey. It was almost like he knew I'd come down. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, without turning his head. I shook mine. "Nope." He motioned beside him. "Sit." I hesitated. Then I did. The porch was silent, the night air cool and still. We sat side by side, not touching, not looking at each other, just breathing the same space. And then he said, "I miss being able to talk without pretending." I turned to him. He met my eyes. "You ever pretend so long, you forget who you were before?" I swallowed hard. Something in his voice cracked slightly, barely noticeable, but it was there. I nodded. "Every day." He smiled faintly. "That's why I said yes when Ethan offered you the room. I didn't just want to help you." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked at me again, that deep, unreadable gaze that made me feel both seen and exposed. I wanted to remember who I was. Before I could respond, he reached over, slowly, and placed his hand on my shoulder. Not possessively, not casually, just there, warm, grounding, intentional. And that was the moment. That's when I knew it wasn't just me, that he felt it too. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was thick, with mutual understanding. Still, neither of us moved, because to move meant choosing a direction, and neither of us was ready for what that would mean. The next day, Ethan returned home. His loud footsteps, his laughing voice, his energy. It shattered the quiet tension that had built up between me and Mr. Dalton like glass under a hammer. And suddenly, I was back to playing the best friend, the safe one, the one who'd never dream of looking at his friend's dad that way. Except I already had, and I couldn't unsee it. That evening, at dinner, Ethan cracked jokes like he always did. Mr. Dalton laughed. I tried, but I could feel his eyes on me. Not obvious, just tracking me, watching for signs. And then it happened. Ethan left the table to grab something upstairs. And in that short, silent moment, Mr. Dalton leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough for only me to hear. "You okay?" I nodded. He paused, then whispered, "We don't have to talk about it, but if you want to, I'm here." After dinner, I stayed in the guest room with the door shut. I didn't sleep, didn't move, just sat on the edge of the bed, wondering how I'd ended up in the middle of something so quiet, but so loud in my chest. This wasn't just some silly crush or fantasy. This was something else, something dangerous. And it was only the beginning. Ever had a moment where just one touch changed the way you saw someone forever? Part 3 dives deeper. A private moment, an unexpected confession, and a choice that could ruin everything. I tried to keep my distance after that night. Tried to shake the feeling that something invisible had passed between us. A silent agreement, or maybe a warning. Whatever it was, it didn't vanish just because Ethan was back. In fact, it made everything harder, because now we were pretending again, laughing over breakfast, watching football together like nothing had changed. But it had, and I was starting to feel the weight of every unsaid word. Ethan left again on Tuesday, business trip this time. "You and Dad'll be fine," he said casually, tossing his bag over his shoulder. "Just try not to eat all the good snacks while I'm gone." I gave him a forced smile. No promises. Mr. Dalton stood by the door as Ethan left, watching silently until the taillights disappeared down the road. Then he turned to me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then he said softly, "Come talk with me." I followed him to the den. My heart thudded in my chest, not out of fear, but anticipation. The den was dimly lit, quiet, and smelled faintly of leather and oak. He sat down, not behind his desk, but on the edge of the couch, like he was trying not to build a wall between us. I stayed standing. "You're not a kid anymore," he said calmly, "and I'm not oblivious." I swallowed. "Okay. I see the way you look at me," he continued, "and I haven't exactly been innocent either." There it was, said out loud. I felt my breath catch. "So what now?" He stood and walked slowly toward me. Not threatening, not seductive, just real. "We don't do anything stupid," he said. "We talk, like men, like people who know better." I nodded, barely breathing. Then he said the words I didn't expect. "Close the door behind you." I hesitated. "Please," he added. So I did. What followed wasn't some dramatic, reckless moment. It was a conversation, the kind that had been building for years in silences and sidelong glances. He told me about his past, about how he'd always followed expectations, married young, raised a son, focused on his career. And somewhere in all of that, he said, I forgot to ask myself what I really wanted. I sat down across from him. And now, he looked at me, straight into me. Now I don't want to lie anymore, even if I can't act on it. His honesty hit harder than I expected, because I wasn't just hearing his story. I was hearing my own, the fear of being misunderstood, the quiet shame, the secret moments you only share in your head. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Do you regret anything?" He paused, then shook his head. "No, because if I had done anything differently, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here." That's when I realized this wasn't just curiosity. This was connection. He reached for my hand, just held it, firm and warm. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was doing something wrong. I felt seen, whole, wanted. We didn't kiss, didn't cross that line. But emotionally, we were already deep in it. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. We hadn't made any promises, but we'd opened the door. And doors don't always stay closed for long. Some connections aren't loud. They're quiet, steady, and impossible to ignore. If this part hit you in the heart, even just a little, tap like to show love. Comment your thoughts. We read every single one. Share it with someone who'd feel this too. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss part 4, where a single moment in the hallway changes everything. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Maybe I was restless, or maybe part of me knew something was going to shift. Something subtle, but irreversible. I stepped into the hallway, rubbing my eyes, shirtless, barefoot, groggy. That's when I saw him, Mr. Dalton, standing at the other end of the hallway in a plain white tee and joggers, looking right at me, not awkwardly, not accidentally, just seeing me, We both froze. It was a second, maybe two, but it felt like an hour. He didn't speak, didn't move, and neither did I. Then, without a word, he turned and walked into the guest bathroom. The silence after was louder than anything I'd ever heard. I couldn't shake the feeling all day. That look, that pause, it wasn't nothing. It meant something. Later that afternoon, I was in the backyard, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself, trying not to read into every glance, every gesture. Then he came out. He had a small cardboard box in his hand. "Mind helping me with this?" he asked casually. "Sure." I followed him to the shed, the one tucked in the back of the property. It was small, dim, barely used anymore. A place for old tools and forgotten things. He set the box down, and then turned to me. "Do you remember the first time you stayed here?" he asked. I nodded slowly. I was, 14? "Yeah," he said with a faint smile. "You had braces. Wore that hoodie with the ripped sleeves everywhere." I laughed. It was my favorite. "You were a good kid," he said. "Still are." He paused. "I never thought I'd be having conversations like this with you." I raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" He took a step closer. "About things I've never even said to my own son." There was again that closeness, that pull. But this time it wasn't a question. It was a choice. He looked down, then back up at me. "Sometimes," he said, "it's the people you're not supposed to feel things for that make you feel most alive." The air in the shed felt warmer, thicker. I didn't move. Neither did he. But we were inches apart now, close enough to feel each other's breath. And then the door creaked open, wind, probably, but it snapped us both back. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. "We should head in," he said. But I could tell. He wanted to say more. Maybe I did too. That night, as I passed his room to grab water from the kitchen, I saw it again. His door slightly open, and his silhouette, seated at the edge of his bed, hunched forward, like he was waiting. For what, I didn't know. But when he looked up and saw me standing there, just for a heartbeat, he didn't look away, and neither did I. Some moments don't need words. Just looks and silence that says everything. If this story has you feeling anything, confusion, warmth, curiosity, hit like to show it. Got a theory or thought? Drop it in the comments. We're listening. Know someone who needs to see this kind of story? Share it. And for real, subscribe now so you don't miss part 5, when a quiet night leads to a decision that can't be undone. I don't know if it was a hallway moment or the way he looked at me from across his dimly lit bedroom. But something had shifted, not on the surface, not out loud, but deep underneath. It was like we were two people who both understood what the other wasn't saying. And honestly, that scared me more than anything. Because what do you do when someone finally sees you? Not just who you pretend to be, but the person you've been quietly hiding even from yourself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing every creak in the house. At one point, I got up and stood at the bedroom window, watching the wind sway the tree branches in the backyard. The moonlight lit up the patio just enough to make the night feel like a dream I wasn't sure I belonged in. I wasn't expecting the knock. Soft, measured, barely there. But I heard it, and I knew it was him. I opened the door slowly, my heart thudding in my chest. Mr. Dalton stood there. Sweatpants, t-shirt, barefoot, not a word, just eyes locked with mine. He looked over his shoulder, hallway empty, then back at me. "You awake?" he asked. I almost laughed. Clearly. He hesitated, then said, "Come downstairs." Just for a minute. Something in his tone made me trust him. The kitchen was dark except for the little under-cabinet lights that made everything glow soft and golden. He poured 2 glasses of water and handed me one. We stood in silence for a few seconds, drinking, neither of us pretending we were here by accident. Then he said, "You know, I used to be a very different man." I leaned against the counter. "How so?" "Rigid, focused, always thinking 5 steps ahead, always trying to be someone people respected." I nodded slowly. "But I never asked myself what I respected," he added. or who I really was underneath all that. I didn't know what to say, but I didn't need to, because the look on his face said it all. He was tired of pretending, tired of holding back. He set his glass down. "You've been patient with me," he said, "more than I deserve." "You haven't done anything wrong," I replied. He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I've been fighting something that, honestly, I'm not sure I want to fight anymore." The air grew still. That was the moment, that exact second where everything could have gone one of two ways. He could have walked away. He could have said good night and gone back upstairs. But he didn't. Instead, he stepped closer, not rushing, not forcing, just allowing the distance between us to shrink until we were standing shoulder to shoulder in the dim kitchen light. His hand brushed mine on the counter. Barely a touch. But it lit something inside me I'd been trying to smother for weeks. "I don't know where this goes," he whispered. "I don't even know what to call it." I swallowed hard. "Maybe you don't have to call it anything." That's when he turned to face me fully. And everything else, the house, the silence, the past, faded into the background. He reached up slowly, like he was afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. His hand cupped the side of my face. Gentle, careful, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch me that way. "I've never done this before," he said. I nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Me neither. Not like this." And then it happened. Not a kiss full of lust. Not something dirty or reckless. It was quiet, intentional, almost scared. Like two men trying to figure out if they were allowed to feel what they were feeling. He pulled back just slightly, forehead resting against mine. And in that silence, I felt more connected than I ever had in any relationship before. Because this wasn't about sex. This was about being seen. And I had never felt more exposed or more safe. We sat on the couch for almost 2 hours after that, just talking. He told me about his failed marriage, about how he'd known, deep down, something was missing but couldn't name it, wouldn't dare to. "I always thought I was broken," he admitted. "Like I couldn't feel what other people felt." "You're not broken," I said softly. He looked at me with eyes that seemed more vulnerable than I'd ever seen. And for the first time, I believed that maybe neither of us were. Eventually, the clock hit 3:47 a.m. We both stood in the kitchen again, silently agreeing that whatever this was, it couldn't be rushed. I said goodnight. He hesitated before replying. "Sleep well." And as I walked up the stairs, I didn't look back, because I knew he was watching me go. The next morning, Ethan FaceTimed me from a hotel lobby in Chicago. "Yo, you guys still alive?" he joked, sipping coffee. I smiled. "Barely. Your dad's keeping me busy with yard work." Mr. Dalton, who was across the room folding laundry, looked up and smirked. Ethan laughed. Man, he loved that stuff. We kept the call short, easy. But underneath it, I could feel it. Guilt. Not loud, but whispering. Because I wasn't just hiding something from my best friend. I was falling into something with his father. And I had no idea how, or if it would ever make sense. Later that evening, Mr. Dalton and I found ourselves on the back porch. No alcohol, no music, just the sound of summer insects and distant cars passing in the night. He spoke first. "I don't want to ruin your friendship with Ethan." "You won't," I said, maybe too quickly. He gave me a look, not doubting me, just knowing better. "We both know this could change everything," he said. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, but so could pretending nothing happened." He exhaled deeply, like he'd been holding that breath for weeks. Then a long pause. He turned his head toward me and said something I didn't expect. "If this becomes too much, you can walk away. I'll understand." I looked at him, and I knew what he was doing. He wasn't giving me an exit. He was giving me control. Because for once, someone older, someone with more power, wasn't trying to take something from me. He was letting me choose. I didn't walk away. I stayed, not because I was weak, but because this was the first thing that had made me feel strong in a long time. We sat there until the sky turned purple. And when we finally went inside, I felt the weight of everything coming toward us. Ethan returning. Secrets getting harder to hold. and a bond that, no matter how careful we try to be, was only growing stronger. Ethan's flight landed at 4:15 p.m. I remember the time exactly because I watched the clock like a storm warning. Every tick dragged the moment closer when our strange, fragile balance would tilt. The week alone with Mr. Dalton had changed everything. Not in loud, obvious ways, but in subtle shifts. Glances that lingered. Touches that almost happened. Words spoken late at night with trembling honesty. Now the spell was about to break. I heard the sound of Ethan's car, tires crunching on the driveway gravel. Mr. Dalton and I were in the living room, pretending to scroll on our phones. Both of us startled like kids caught doing something they shouldn't. We didn't speak. The door opened. "Yo!" Ethan called out, dragging his suitcase inside. "I'm home." He walked in wearing that signature grin of his, sunburnt and tired from the business trip. I stood up, and we exchanged a quick hug. "House still standing?" "Barely." I joked. Mr. Dalton approached and gave his son a one-armed hug. "You eat?" he asked. "Plain food counts." Ethan laughed. I could kill a burger. And just like that, we were three again. Everything was normal. Everything was a lie. That night, over dinner, I watched them talk, father and son, and I felt the growing weight of my secret pressing against my ribs. "Dad, you still doing the early morning jogs?" Ethan asked between bites. Mr. Dalton looked up. "Sometimes." "He's been slacking," I teased. Said I run too fast for him. Mr. Dalton shot me a look. Amused, but cautious. Ethan didn't catch it. "Man, you two got close this week," he said. That sentence hit like a glass cracking. I smiled to cover it. "Your dad's cooler than I thought." Ethan smirked. "Yeah, he has his moments." Moments. If only he knew. That night, I lay in bed and couldn't sleep. Every little creak in the hallway made my stomach turn. I wondered if Mr. Dalton was awake, if he was thinking about the kitchen, the couch, that soft, trembling kiss. I wanted to text him, but Ethan's room was next to mine. One notification sound could blow it all. So I waited, and then around 1:11 a.m., I heard a soft knock. It wasn't my door. It was Mr. Dalton's. And Ethan's voice, "Hey, you awake?" I froze. Mr. Dalton answered, muffled through the wall. "Yeah." Ethan walked in. I could hear their conversation like a murmur, something about work, about bills, about how weird I'd been acting lately. "I feel like he's hiding something," Ethan said. Not in a bad way, just off. Mr. Dalton didn't reply right away. "Maybe he's just figuring things out," he said finally. "Yeah," Ethan sighed. "Maybe." The door closed again. The next morning, I sat alone on the patio with my coffee. Mr. Dalton came out and joined me without a word. We didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "We need to be careful." "I know. This isn't just about you and me anymore." I nodded. "I'm not saying we stop," he added quietly, "but we have to be smart. Ethan can't know." "Do you regret it?" I asked. He looked at me, and the sadness in his eyes gave me my answer before he spoke. "No," he said. "I regret waiting this long to feel something real." We started sneaking moments, passing each other in the hallway, just a little too close. Shared glances when Ethan wasn't looking. One night, when Ethan was in the shower, Mr. Dalton brushed his hand against mine as I passed him the remote. It was nothing. It was everything. I began to crave those stolen touches more than anything else. It was intoxicating, dangerous, addictive, and then it almost ended. One afternoon, I got out of the shower and realized I'd left my phone downstairs. I wrapped a towel around my waist and ran down quickly, not expecting anyone to be around. Ethan was there, holding my phone. "Dude, you left it buzzing like crazy," he said, grinning, until he saw me. His eyes dropped slightly, to the towel, then back up. He laughed awkwardly. "Jesus, man, at least throw on some shorts." "Sorry," I muttered, grabbing the phone and turning toward the stairs. And that's when he said it. "You and my dad, you're not hiding something, right?" I stopped, turned slowly. What do you mean? He shrugged. I don't know. It's just you two have been acting weird since I got back. I forced a laugh. Maybe we just get along better than we used to. Ethan studied me, then smiled. All right, chill. I'm just messing with you. But the look in his eyes told me he wasn't. He knew something. Not everything, but enough. And suddenly, the house felt smaller, hotter, like the walls were listening. That night, Mr. Dalton found me in the garage. I would pretend to clean tools I didn't know how to use. He asked you, didn't he? He said. Yeah. What did you say? That we're just getting along better. He nodded, then leaned against a workbench. This can't last forever, he said. I knew what he meant. Not us. The secret. The pretending. The tension was a balloon growing tighter every day. Do you want it to? I asked. He turned to me. I want you, he said. The way he said it wasn't desperate or romantic. It was honest. And sometimes honesty is the most dangerous thing of all. After that conversation with Ethan, the air in the house felt different, like it was charged, fragile, waiting to break. Even though he'd laughed it off, I could feel the curiosity burning behind his eyes. Every glance, every pause. He was watching us more closely, listening harder. Mr. Dalton felt it too. We started talking less in front of Ethan. Even our stolen glances became rare, like we were afraid to look at each other too long. But the distance didn't make things easier. It made the desire worse. 3 days after that moment in the garage, something happened that I didn't see coming. It was a Saturday morning. Ethan was out grabbing groceries. I was in the backyard, watering the plants. Mr. Dalton came out with a mug of coffee in hand, acting casual. He stood next to me and quietly asked, "Can you come to shed with me for a sec? Need help lifting something." I followed him without question. The shed was small and dimly lit, and when he closed the door behind us, my heart started racing. "There's nothing to lift, is there?" I said quietly. He shook his head. "No." And then he leaned in and kissed me. Soft, slow, but with a deep ache behind it, like he'd been starving. We didn't go any further. We couldn't, not with Ethan due back any minute. But that kiss, it lit something inside me that had been pushed down for too long. When we pulled apart, I rested my forehead against his. "I can't keep pretending," I whispered. "I know. We either stop completely or we stop lying." He pulled back, eyes searching mine. "I'm scared of losing him," he said. "Ethan." "And I'm scared of losing both of you," I replied. We stood there in silence until we heard Ethan's car pulling in, back to reality. That night, I tried to distract myself. I grabbed some beers in the fridge and suggested a movie night, hoping to bring things back to normal. Ethan agreed immediately. Mr. Dalton hesitated, then nodded. We picked something random on Netflix, an action movie, loud enough to hide the silence between us. I sat in the middle of the couch, Ethan on one side, Mr. Dalton on the other. We didn't talk much. We just watched. But about halfway through, Ethan paused the movie and turned to me. "Hey," he said, "can I ask you something?" Serious this time. My stomach dropped. Sure." He looked at me carefully. "Are you into guys?" The question hit me like a truck. My throat went dry. I could feel Mr. Dalton stiffen next to me. I swallowed. "Why are you asking?" Ethan shrugged, trying to sound casual. "I don't know. Just the way you look at people. The way you avoid talking about girls. It's not a bad thing. Yes," I interrupted softly. "I am." The silence that followed was brutal. Ethan blinked. "Okay, cool. I echoed, still frozen. "Yeah," he said, smiling now. "I figured. Just wanted to hear you say it." Mr. Dalton shifted slightly beside me, but didn't speak. Ethan continued. "I mean, dude, you're my best friend. Who you like doesn't change that." I felt my lungs finally expand, like I'd been underwater. "Thanks," I said quietly. And for a brief moment, I thought maybe things would be okay, until Ethan added, "So, you're not, into me, right?" Mr. Dalton actually coughed on his beer at that. I laughed, shaking my head. No, definitely not. Ethan grinned. Good. That'd be weird. We resumed the movie, but my heart wasn't in it. I had told the truth, but not the whole truth. And somehow that felt worse. Later that night, after Ethan had gone to bed, I stood outside Mr. Dalton's door. I didn't knock. I couldn't, but I needed to be near him. He opened the door quietly, as if he already knew I was there. "You okay?" he asked. I told him. I said that I'm into guys. Mr. Dalton stepped aside and let me in. His room smelled like cedar and something older, like memories. "I'm proud of you," he said. I didn't tell him about us. I know. We sat on the edge of his bed in the dark, side by side, not touching. "I keep thinking about what happens if this comes out," I said, "if he finds out the truth." He was quiet for a long time before answering. "He'll hate me, maybe forever. And me. But I'll still want you." The word scared me, because I still wanted him to. A few days passed. Things calmed down on the surface, but underneath, the storm was brewing. And then the unexpected happened. Ethan got a job offer. In Chicago. It came out of nowhere. Some startup he'd applied to months ago. Just for fun. "They want me to move out there by next month," he told us one evening. "It's fast, but it's a huge opportunity." Mr. Dalton smiled. "I'm proud of you." I forced a smile too. "Yeah, man, that's amazing." Inside, I felt like the floor had shifted. Ethan leaving would change everything. No more sneaking around. No more fear of being caught. But also no more buffer. No more pretending. It would be just me and Mr. Dalton. Alone. Was I ready for that? The night before Ethan was set to leave for a quick visit to check out apartments, he and I sat outside, watching the stars. "You've been quiet lately," he said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "Life." He looked at me, serious now. "I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest." I turned to him. "Is there something going on between you and my dad?" The question split the night open. I felt my blood freeze. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. He stared at me, waiting. Finally, I said, "Why would you think that?" "I don't know. The way you act. The tension. The looks. I've seen it, man." I swallowed hard. "We're close. That's all." He didn't buy it. I could tell. But he didn't press further. He just stood up, muttered goodnight, and went back inside. I sat there alone, my heart pounding like a drum. The secret was cracking, the edges fraying, and soon it would all come undone. That night, I barely slept. Ethan's question kept echoing in my head. "Is there something going on between you and my dad?" He'd seen something, felt something, and even though I denied it, a seed had been planted. And once that seed was there, it would only grow. By morning, Ethan was gone, bags packed for a weekend trip to Chicago to tour apartments and meet his future team. Mr. Dalton and I stood in the driveway, waving him off like everything was fine. But the second his car disappeared down the street, a silence settled between us. Not peaceful, not relaxed, a silence full of unsaid things. I turned to Mr. Dalton. "We need to talk." He nodded. Inside. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, sunlight spilling in through the windows, betraying how dark the mood really was. He asked me. I said, "About us." His eyes widened just a little. "What did you say?" I told him there was nothing going on. His shoulders sagged. But I don't think he believed me. He rubbed his hands over his face. "God, we can't keep doing this," I said. "Not like this. It's getting dangerous." "I know. I don't want to lie to him anymore." "And what?" "We just tell him." His voice cracked slightly. "That I've been sneaking around with my son's best friend behind his back?" I flinched. It sounded so ugly when put like that. But he wasn't wrong. "No," I said, "not like that. But maybe when he comes back. We sit down. We talk. All of us." "And say what?" he asked quietly. "That we didn't plan this. That it just happened." He shook his head. No one will believe that, especially not Ethan. We didn't come to a decision that day, but something shifted. The fear didn't go away, but became clearer, less of a fog, more of a path we could actually see, even if we didn't want to walk it. That night, I stayed in my room. Mr. Dalton didn't knock. I didn't go to his. We both knew space was necessary. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. I woke up to the sound of the shower running. It was early, maybe 6:30 a.m., and I assumed it was Mr. Dalton. I got up to grab a glass of water, passing by the half-open bathroom door. Steam spilled out like fog, and then I heard a voice. But not Mr. Dalton's. Ethan's. My heart stopped. He was home. I backed up slowly, almost tripping over myself, and stumbled into the hallway. Moments later, Ethan stepped out in a towel, surprised to see me. "Oh, hey, didn't expect you up this early," he said. "You're back." Flight got moved, landed late last night, crashed on the couch. "Oh." I blinked. "I didn't hear you come in." He gave me a small smile. "You sleep like the dead." Then he added, "Dad didn't know either." I scared the hell out of him this morning. I laughed awkwardly. "Good to have you back." But inside, I was panicking. Last night, anything could have happened. One wrong move, one slip-up. If I had gone into Mr. Dalton's room, if the door hadn't been locked, the day dragged on in slow motion. Ethan seemed normal, cheerful, tired from the trip, talking about neighborhoods in Chicago. But I noticed how often his eyes flicked between me and his dad, watching, waiting. I felt like I was walking a tightrope with no safety net. Later that evening, Mr. Dalton asked me to help him fix the front gate, something we'd put off for weeks. Ethan was in the living room, watching football. Outside, tools in hand, he turned to me and whispered. He caught me almost unlocking the door last night. My blood ran cold. "What?" I thought it was you knocking. It was him. He saw me coming out of my room, shirtless, confused. Jesus. He didn't say anything, just looked at me and walked away. We stood in silence, the metal of the gate creaking beneath our hands. "He knows," I whispered. "He suspects." "No, he knows." Mr. Dalton met my eyes. Then it's only a matter of time. That night, it all came crashing down. It started with a knock on my bedroom door. Gentle, almost hesitant. I opened it, expecting Mr. Dalton. It was Ethan. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I need to ask you again," he said. "And this time, don't lie." My throat dried up. "Ethan, are you and my dad involved?" I couldn't look away from him. He deserved the truth. "Yes," I said. "We are." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "For how long?" "Since that night in the kitchen, when you were out with your friends." He took a step back. "So, all those late nights? The weird silences? The tension? I wasn't crazy." "No. And you didn't think I deserved to know?" "We were scared," I said. "We didn't plan for this. It just happened." "You're my best friend," he said. "He's my dad." "I know." He was quiet for a long time. His face was unreadable. "I should hit you," he finally said. I didn't flinch. I wouldn't stop you. But he didn't hit me. He just turned around and walked out. The next day, the house felt like a war zone. Ethan didn't speak to either of us. Mr. Dalton tried multiple times to talk to him, to explain, but Ethan shut him down every time. I stayed in my room most of the day, unsure of what to do. By evening, I finally walked downstairs to find Ethan sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed. "We need to talk," he said. I nodded. "I'm angry," he said plainly, "but not just because you're with him. I'm angry because you lied, because you hid it from me. I was afraid you'd hate me. I don't hate you, but I hate what you did. I'm sorry." "I believe that," he said, "but it doesn't fix anything." He stood up. "I'm leaving tomorrow. And when I come back next week, I don't want you to be here." It hit like a punch to the gut. "What?" "You need to go. Stay somewhere else. Figure your life out. Figure him out." And what about you? I don't know, he said honestly. I just need space. From both of you. I nodded slowly, tears burning in my eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. He walked past me without another word. And just like that, the house wasn't mine anymore. I didn't pack much. Just a small duffel bag and a backpack with essentials. No dramatic goodbye. No final hugs. Ethan had made it clear I wasn't wanted there. Not right now. Mr. Dalton stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching me zip up the last of my things. This doesn't feel right, he said. I know. I should be the one leaving. Not you. No, I said, meeting his eyes. You're his dad. This is your house. It always has been. But it hasn't felt like mine in months. Not since you. He didn't finish that sentence. He didn't have to. I walked past him, pausing just before the front door. This isn't goodbye. Just space. Where will you go? Jake owes me a couch, I said with a weak smile. He tried to smile too, but it didn't reach his eyes. Call me, he whispered, whenever you want, even if you don't say anything. I nodded, then stepped out into the sunlight. Jake, my old college roommate, lived 20 minutes away in a cramped but clean 2-bedroom apartment. He didn't ask many questions when I showed up, just pointed to the pull-out couch and tossed me a blanket. You look like you've been hit by a truck, he said. Emotionally, I have. Jake raised an eyebrow. Want to talk about it? No, I said. Not yet. He respected that. And honestly, that was all I needed. The days blurred. I texted Ethan. He didn't reply. I texted Mr. Dalton. Sometimes he answered. Sometimes he didn't. But every message felt like reaching across a canyon. There was distance now, not just physical, but emotional, and I had no idea how to bridge it. Jake tried to get me out of the apartment, suggested bars, parks, movies, but nothing felt right. I was in limbo, caught between the boy I grew up with and the man I'd fallen for. And worst of all, I couldn't talk to either of them. One night, around 2 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I stepped out onto Jake's tiny balcony and stared out at the city. My phone buzzed. One new message, Mr. Dalton. I miss you. Every night feels colder. I stared at it for a long time before replying. I miss you too. A few seconds later, come back. I didn't answer. I couldn't. A week passed. Jake came home from work one night and dropped his keys on the counter. You got a visitor. I looked up confused. What? He stepped aside. Ethan stood in the doorway. My stomach dropped. He looked calmer, not angry, not smiling either, just tired. Like me. I need to talk, he said. Jake nodded and gave us space. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, just like the first time we met, awkward and unsure. Back then, we were 2 kids planning summer road trips. Now, it felt like we were strangers. Ethan took a deep breath. I've had time to think. I didn't say anything. I waited. I still don't get it, he said. How it happened, why it happened. But I know you're not a bad person, and neither is my dad. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I was angry, he continued. Still am, but I realized something. What? I was more angry about the betrayal than the love. I blinked. What do you mean? I saw how he looked at you, he said. I saw how you looked at him. I've never seen either of you look at anyone like that. I couldn't speak. Ethan leaned back. You fell in love. And that sucks for me. But I can't hold that against you forever. Ethan, I'm not saying I'm okay with it. I'm saying I'm trying. That broke me. I leaned forward, burying my face in my hands. I'm sorry. I know. When I looked back up, his eyes were glassy too. I don't know what happens now, he said, but I don't want to lose my dad. Or you, so let's figure out. The next day, I returned home. Not like before, not as someone sneaking around in the dark, but as someone stepping into the light. Mr. Dalton met me at the door, breath catching in his throat when he saw me. You're really here? I nodded. He pulled me into a hug, and I felt something in me finally settle. Later that night, the 3 of us sat down in the living room. No TV, no distractions, just raw honesty. Ethan spoke first. I don't want you to hide this anymore. If you're going to be together, be together. Just give me time. Mr. Dalton nodded. Of course. I added, we'll take it slow. Nothing changes overnight. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. You say that, but everything already has. In the weeks that followed, we tried to create a new rhythm. I still didn't sleep in Mr. Dalton's room. We didn't kiss in front of Ethan. We didn't force anything. Ethan started asking questions, hard ones. What do you love about him? When did you know? Did you ever think about what would do to me? We answered each one, truthfully, even when it hurt. But something miraculous happened in the middle of all that pain. We started healing, not forgetting, not pretending, but healing. One evening, I came home to find Mr. Dalton and Ethan sitting on the back porch, laughing about something. They didn't notice me at first. They looked like father and son again. I leaned against the doorframe and smiled, tears welling in my eyes. We had destroyed something, but maybe, just maybe, we were building something too. Something stronger, something honest. But healing isn't a straight line. And just when things started to feel normal again, a letter arrived in the mail, one that would change everything. It arrived on a Thursday afternoon, a regular white envelope, no return address, just our home address written in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. Ethan grabbed it from the mailbox, tossing it on the kitchen table like any other piece of mail. He didn't think twice. Neither did I. Mr. Dalton was out back, trimming the hedges. I poured myself a glass of iced tea and started flipping through bills when I noticed the envelope again. Something about it felt off. I picked it up, turned it over, and slowly tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed, no greeting. Just cold, simple text. You think people aren't watching, but they are. Neighbors talk. And what they're saying isn't good. What you're doing is disgusting. He's your son's best friend. And you're old enough to know better. If you don't stop, everyone will know. Stop now, or we will make you. My hands went numb. My heart pounded. I read it again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. No signature. No name. Just that one last threat. Or we will make you. Ethan noticed the color drain from my face. What is it? I handed him the letter silently. His face shifted from confusion to disbelief to rage. Who the hell would write this? I don't know. Did you show my dad? I shook my head. Not yet. He grabbed the paper and stormed outside. I followed, heart thudding in my chest, just in time to see Ethan hand his father the letter. Mr. Dalton read it quickly, his jaw clenched, knuckles whitening as he gripped the paper. Do you recognize the handwriting? Ethan asked. No, he said, voice low, but that's not the point. He turned to me. You okay? I think so, I said softly. Just shaken. Someone in this neighborhood wrote this. Ethan said, someone close. It doesn't matter, Mr. Dalton replied. Let them talk. Let them watch. They threatened you. They won't do anything. But what if they do? Mr. Dalton looked at me, then at Ethan. I've spent my whole life worrying what people think. About my job. About being a single dad. About keeping everything respectable. And look where that got us. He held up the letter. We finally start living honestly, and this is a response. We stood there for a while, the three of us, surrounded by silence louder than any scream. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing neighbors whispering behind curtains, watching through windows, imagining all the things they might have seen, glances, body language, maybe even overheard conversations. I felt exposed, like a secret undone. Mr. Dalton came into my room sometime after midnight. He didn't say anything, just crawled under the blanket and pulled me close. They can't touch us, he whispered. But I wasn't so sure. The next few days were tense. I kept catching glances from people at the grocery store, at the gas station. Even the barista at the cafe we used to go to looked at me a little too long. Were they really staring? Or was it just in my head now? Mr. Dalton refused to show fear. Let them talk, he kept saying. But I knew better. I could see it in the way he double-checked the locks every night, the way he kept his phone close, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. We were being watched. And worse, we didn't know by who. Ethan, to his credit, stood by us. He didn't run, didn't lash out. He got angrier, more protective. Let them come, he said once. I dare them. But I could tell he was scared too, not just for us, but for what this meant about the world we lived in. The truth is, you think honesty will set you free. But sometimes honesty just gives people something to aim at. A week later, it escalated. We woke up to find our mailbox smashed, sledgehammered. It looked like no note this time, no words, just destruction. The cops came and filed a report. Vandalism. No leads. They didn't take it seriously. But we did. That night, Mr. Dalton installed a security camera above the porch. We were being pushed. And I didn't know how much longer we could stand it. That evening, Ethan sat across from me at the dining table. You don't have to stay here, he said. You could move out, start fresh somewhere else. Is that what you want? No, he admitted, but I don't want you getting hurt. I thought about that. Then I said, do you think what we're doing is wrong? He looked surprised. No, I think it's complicated. Messy, but not wrong. Then I won't run. He nodded slowly. Later that night, Mr. Dalton came into my room again. This time, he was holding a small, folded note. I recognized it instantly. It was the first letter. He sat on the edge of my bed and said, if I ask you something hard, will you answer me honestly? Always. If it came down to it. If things got dangerous, would you walk away? For your safety? I looked him in the eye. I would walk away to protect you, but never because I stopped loving you. His breath caught. Then he kissed me, long, deep, full of every emotion neither of us could say out loud. We were being tested, not just by the outside world, but by our own fear. And even though we didn't have answers, we still had each other. But we didn't know then that the person behind the letters and threats wasn't just a neighbor. It was someone we knew. And when we found out who, it would change everything. The night the truth came out, the air was oddly still. Mr. Dalton and I sat in the living room watching an old movie. Not really watching, just letting the noise fill the silence. Ethan was upstairs, probably gaming with friends or pretending everything was normal. The doorbell rang around 9:40 p.m. Mr. Dalton muted the TV and looked at me. We weren't expecting anyone. He opened the door cautiously. Standing there, holding a bottle of wine and an exaggerated grin, was Pamela, our overly chatty neighbor from across the street. Hi there, she beamed. Thought I'd drop by. It's been ages since we caught up. Mr. Dalton, polite as ever, forced a smile. Sure, Pam. Come on in. I sat upright, stiff. Something about her felt off. She walked in casually, eyes darting from the hall to the kitchen, then to me. Her smile faltered, only for a second. Then, too sweetly, she said, So, how are the boys? Boys. Plural. Mr. Dalton hesitated. We're good. Glad to hear that. She set the wine down. Because some people on this block are very concerned. There it was, not even 5 minutes in. I shifted in my seat. Concerned about what, Pamela? She blinked, as if surprised I spoke. Oh, I don't know. Maybe about the arrangement in this house. The inappropriateness of it all. Mr. Dalton's tone dropped. If this is about the letter. Oh, please, she cut in, laughing bitterly. You think I'd waste my time writing threats? No, I'm just the messenger. I'm the one who told the rest of the neighborhood what I saw that night. My stomach turned. What night? Pamela smirked. 3 months ago, when I came over with that lasagna. I saw you, in the hallway. You weren't being very subtle. She looked at Mr. Dalton now. He touched your hand. You touched his back. You looked at him like he hung the stars. I swallowed hard. She leaned closer. You may think your secret relationship is romantic, but a lot of people here think it's sick. A man your age, That's enough, Mr. Dalton snapped. For the first time, Pamela looked stunned, but he didn't stop. You came into my house under the illusion of friendship. Just to threaten us? To judge something you don't understand. I'm just saying what everyone else is too afraid to. No, I said, standing up. You're saying what you are afraid to admit. That love looks different sometimes. That it doesn't follow rules or timelines. That maybe, just maybe, people can find something real in the most unexpected places. Pamela's lips tightened. You're a child. I'm a grown man, and I've loved him more honestly than most people ever will. She turned to leave. You'll regret this, one way or another. When she was gone, the silence felt heavier. Ethan came downstairs a few minutes later, looking confused. We told him everything, and to our surprise, he wasn't shocked. I figured it was someone like her, he said. She always stared too long, asked too many weird questions. He exhaled slowly. So what now? Now we live. We didn't move. We didn't hide. Mr. Dalton and I stopped pretending. We started showing up at events together, not holding hands or anything bold, just present, open. Ethan got used to it, faster than we expected. Sometimes we'd all cook together. Other times, he'd roll his eyes and say, "You two are gross," before retreating to his room with a smile. Neighbors still whispered. We could feel in the air. But we were stronger than whispers. One day, months later, Mr. Dalton and I sat on the porch. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. I used to think love was something you earned, he said quietly, that it had rules, stages, age limits. But it's not. What is it then? I asked. A risk, he said. A beautiful, terrifying risk. I smiled. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to, because for the first time, what we had was seen, not just by the world, but by ourselves. Thank you so much for watching this emotional journey. If this story made you feel, think, or see love differently, then please like this video to support authentic storytelling. Comment your thoughts. We read every one. Share with someone who needs to hear a story like this. And subscribe so you never miss stories that challenge comfort and connect. Your support keeps stories like this alive.